The hidden inflammatory foods. Sabotaging your health and how to fight back. What's the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about foods that cause inflammation in the body? A lot of people will instantly say, red meat. We are always hearing advice about reducing beef and pork consumption, believing these meats are the root cause of health problems. But what if I told you that in a true list of foods that are fueling chronic inflammation in our bodies, ordinary red meat wouldn't even make the top tier? There are many things lurking deeper in our diet that are much more damaging. We might be eating these things every single day without even knowing the harm they're causing. Today, let's uncover the real troublemakers hidden in our daily diet that are harming our gut and sabotaging our health by sparking inflammation. And I'll share a set of natural remedies to help you turn the tide and reclaim your well-being. Before we dive in, if you genuinely care about your health and the health of your family, please click the subscribe button below and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss future practical health insights. Here, we'll reveal the health truths that mainstream media often avoids telling you. If you appreciate what we share, please type "Health is Wealth" in the comments. It's the most heartwarming way to support our continued work. If you or your loved ones are struggling with health problems, feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer your questions. First, let's understand what inflammatory foods really are. Simply put, inflammatory foods are those that trigger chronic inflammation inside our bodies. Inflammation itself is a good thing. It's a self-protection mechanism. For example, if you accidentally cut your hand or get a bacterial infection, the wound will become red, swollen, and hot. This is acute short-term inflammation, and it means that your immune cells are working hard to fight off the enemy and repair the tissue. However, the scary thing is another scenario in which inflammation becomes chronic. It is like you have a leaky faucet at home that keeps dripping. One drop is nothing, but day after day, year after year, that constant moisture will cause mold on the walls and the wood to rot. Chronic inflammation is like that. It's like an unextinguished flame that burns our tissues and organs continuously and at a low level. Over time, this triggers all kinds of major problems. The medical community has discovered that many familiar chronic diseases have chronic inflammation at their roots. For example, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, various types of arthritis, and even certain cancers and Alzheimer's disease are closely related to long-term chronic inflammation in the body. So, if you want to maintain long-term health, controlling chronic inflammation is crucial. A key to that is controlling what we eat and avoiding foods that fuel the flames. Before we discuss these foods, we must recognize an often overlooked important hidden organ in the body, our gut microbiome. You may have heard that hundreds of trillions of bacteria live in each of our intestines. They form a vast and complex miniature ecosystem. These little microbes may be quiet, but they play a decisive role in our health. They help us digest food, produce essential vitamins, and work closely with our immune system to protect us from harmful pathogens. A healthy, balanced gut microbiome is like a well-managed, harmonious community. The good residents. The probiotics are the guardians, while the bad residents, the harmful bacteria, are kept under control in small numbers. They cannot cause trouble. However, once this balance is broken and the population of the bad residents increases, it will bring endless trouble. So what is the relationship between inflammatory foods and the gut microbiome? The relationship is very close. The destructive power of many inflammatory foods lies not only in the fact that they trigger inflammation, but also in the fact that they seriously disrupt the balance of the gut microbiome. In other words, inflammatory foods are often the enemies of the good residents in our gut. When we eat these foods, the beneficial bacteria in the gut may be hit hard, and their numbers may decrease sharply, while harmful bacteria and yeast take the opportunity to multiply rapidly, leading to an imbalance in the microbiome. The lining of our intestines is like a sophisticated protective wall between the body and the outside world. If there are not enough probiotics guarding the wall and the harmful bacteria are too rampant, this protective wall will become vulnerable and cracks will appear. This is what we often call leaky gut, medically known as increased intestinal permeability. As a result, all kinds of harmful substances that should not enter the bloodstream, undigested food residues, and so on, take the opportunity to enter our circulatory system. When the immune system sees these uninvited guests, it immediately sounds the alarm and treats them as major enemies, triggering a systemic wider range of inflammatory reactions. This creates a vicious cycle, and it is difficult for the body to avoid problems. Does it sound worrying? So, what are the inflammatory foods that we need to be most wary of in our daily life? They are not unfamiliar at all. They are hidden on our dining tables, in office drawers, snack bags, and drink bottles. Let's pick them out, one by one. First, refined sugar is definitely a major culprit on the list. White sugar corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup. These purified processed sweeteners are everywhere. From cakes, cookies, and sugary drinks to the ketchup and salad dressing we use for cooking, they are all lurking there. Why do we say sugar is an inflammatory agent? When we ingest too much sugar, blood sugar rises sharply, which forces the pancreas to secrete a large amount of insulin to lower blood sugar. Maintaining this high sugar diet for a long time can cause cells to become numb to insulin, which is insulin resistance. Blood sugar is then often maintained at a high level. A high blood sugar environment directly damages the walls of our blood vessels and triggers inflammation. At the same time, excess sugar molecules combine with proteins in the body to form a harmful substance called advanced glycation, end products, AGEs. They are like rust, making our tissues brittle and aged, and strongly stimulate inflammation. In addition, sugar is the favorite food of bad bacteria and yeast. Eating too much sugar is like throwing a grand banquet for harmful bacteria in the gut, while the probiotics are starving on the sidelines. Studies have clearly found that a high sugar diet significantly reduces the diversity of beneficial bacteria in the gut, increases the proportion of harmful bacteria, and disrupts the balance of the microbiome, thus triggering inflammation in the gut and the whole body. Second, trans fats are arguably the heavy hitters in inflammatory foods. Trans fats are mainly found in various fried foods, baked goods, pastries, and processed foods that use hydrogenated vegetable oils and artificial butter. In the early 20th century, people invented hydrogenation technology to extend the shelf life of oils and improve the taste of food, but they did not expect to create a health killer. The molecular structure of trans fat is very stable and difficult for our body to break down and metabolize. It stays on our cell membranes like a stubborn nail, making the cell membranes stiff and losing their normal physiological functions. It not only directly triggers a strong inflammatory reaction, but also seriously interferes with the function of insulin, and is one of the main culprits in increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease. Although many countries have realized its harm and legislated to restrict or even prohibit it, unfortunately, trans fat is still lurking in some cakes and fried snacks that pursue a crispy taste. Let's look at the third category, certain vegetable oils. This may surprise many people. Aren't vegetable oils always promoted as a healthier option than animal oils? The truth is not that simple. Not all vegetable oils are bad, but some highly refined vegetable oils in modern diets, especially those rich in omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, such as soybean oil, corn oil, and sunflower seed oil, may actually promote inflammation when we ingest too much of them. The reason is that omega-6 fatty acids are converted into certain molecules that promote inflammation in our body. It's like an accelerator for the inflammatory response. An appropriate amount of omega-6 is necessary, but the problem is the ratio. In the diet of our ancestors, the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, the breaks that prevent inflammation, may have been 1:1 or 2:1. Today, the dietary ratio for many people has reached an astonishing 21 or even higher. This is like our body's accelerator being floored while the brakes fail. Once the inflammation switch is turned on, it is difficult to turn it off. What's worse, the chemical properties of these oils are often unstable. When they are repeatedly heated at high temperatures for frying, they produce a large number of oxides and free radicals, which further stimulate inflammation in the body. Another category, the fourth category, is processed meats such as smoked ham, bacon, sausage, and hot dogs. These meat products that have been cured, smoked, or have chemical preservatives added are also frequent offenders when it comes to inflammatory foods. The World Health Organization listed processed meats as a Group 1 carcinogen as early as 2015. Part of the reason is their close association with digestive tract cancers and chronic inflammation. Processed meats usually contain high amounts of salt-saturated fat and additives such as nitrites. Nitrites may be converted into carcinogenic nitrosamines in our stomach, which irritate the gut and trigger inflammation. At the same time, these meat products also produce harmful substances such as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons during high-temperature cooking or smoking, further damaging our intestinal cells. Studies have found that people who consume large amounts of processed meat have a higher proportion of bacteria in their intestines that produce harmful metabolites. So, when you eat a piece of bacon for breakfast and a few slices of ham in your lunch sandwich, you may be unknowingly adding a heavy burden to your gut. Seeing this, you may ask, which food is the #1 inflammatory food in the world? Is it sugar, trans fat, or processed meat? They are all guilty of many crimes, so it is difficult to distinguish between them. But in fact, the most terrible and most deserving to be called the king of inflammation is modern ultra-processed foods, because they are often a collection of all the previous harms. Think about it. Do the pizza burgers, fried chicken fries, cakes and soda that you love often contain large amounts of refined starch and sugar, poor quality oils from unknown sources, various chemical additives, and may even have pesticide residues? These ultra-processed foods are simply inflammatory hot pots custom-made for our bodies. So if we want to choose the champion of inflammatory foods, it is probably ultra-processed foods. It is our obsession with these convenient and delicious processed junk foods that has gradually plunged us into the quagmire of chronic inflammation. Let's use another vivid analogy to help understand. Imagine your gut is a bustling city with all kinds of residents' gut bacteria. Some are hard-working and kind builders, probiotics that help maintain the city's cleanliness, safety, and operation. There are also a few lazy troublemakers, harmful bacteria that are always trying to stir up trouble. Under normal circumstances, the builders have an absolute advantage, and the city is harmonious and orderly. However, once you start eating a large amount of the inflammatory foods mentioned earlier, it is equivalent to sending an endless supply of free weapons and supplies to the troublemakers in the city while using poison and roadblocks to harm the kind builders. The city starts to become turbulent. The troublemakers use sugar as energy to reproduce wildly, while trans fat and oxidized poor-quality oils are like creating holes in the city's protective wall, destroying the intestinal mucosa barrier. Eventually, a large number of probiotics are killed off, and harmful bacteria take over the city and seize territory. The city falls, and the intestinal barrier becomes full of holes. When the gut microbiome is imbalanced to a certain degree, the catastrophic effects are no longer limited to the inside of the gut. A large number of toxins and pro-inflammatory substances produced by harmful bacteria in the metabolic process take advantage of the damage to the intestinal barrier and slip into the bloodstream. These uninvited guests reach all parts of the body, triggering a full-scale alert from the immune system, and chronic inflammation throughout the body begins. This state may manifest as bloating, diarrhea, or constipation, or it may not have obvious intestinal symptoms but be reflected in other parts of the body, such as recurrent skin allergies, unexplained joint pain, fatigue that is difficult to eliminate, emotional depression, and so on. Over time, more serious chronic diseases begin to emerge. Hearing this, you may be a little worried. It turns out that a piece of cake or a bag of instant noodles is so destructive. Are we already doomed? Don't worry. The good news is that our bodies have a very strong self-repair ability. Through natural remedies, we can completely help ourselves turn the tide, bring the imbalanced gut microbiome back on track, and put out the chronic flames in the body. The key is 2 words: adjust and nourish. That is, adjust our diet and provide appropriate nourishment and healing. Next, let's delve into several practical natural remedies, from diet to lifestyle habits, to comprehensively help us rebuild our health. The most fundamental and important step here is to adjust our diet. The first thing we need to do is cut off the source of inflammation and stop continuing to add fuel to the fire. Specifically, try to reduce the intake of the inflammatory foods mentioned earlier. Eat less refined sugar and replace sugary drinks with water or unsweetened tea. Stay away from trans fat and bad oils, and carefully look at the ingredient list when purchasing food. Processed meats should also be reduced and saved for special occasions to be enjoyed occasionally. Of course, it is not only about reducing bad foods, but also about actively increasing anti-inflammatory foods. Eat more vegetables of various colors, fruits, nuts, whole grains, and fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids. These natural foods can help us nourish good gut bacteria and directly help reduce inflammatory reactions. The second thing is to supplement with probiotics and rebuild the intestinal defense line. Adjusting the diet is equivalent to cutting off the food supply to bad bacteria, but if the good bacteria are already few in number, we also need to actively supplement them with original bacteria. This is where probiotics come in handy. There are various probiotic supplements on the market, but a more natural and delicious source is fermented foods such as unsweetened plain yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, and so on. Incorporating these fermented foods into the daily diet is a very simple and effective way to nourish bacteria. They not only directly provide beneficial live bacteria, but also create a gut environment that is not conducive to the growth of bad bacteria due to the organic acids and other substances produced during fermentation. The third thing is to assist the body's detoxification system. It needs to be clarified that our body itself has a complete detoxification system, mainly undertaken by the liver and kidneys. What we need to do is reduce their burden and provide appropriate support. First, try to avoid new sources of toxins, such as eating less food with pesticide residues, avoiding excessive drinking, and not misusing drugs. Then you can assist with detoxification through some simple methods, such as drinking more water. Water is the best cleanser. Ensure a high-fiber diet. Dietary fiber is like a broom for the intestines, which can absorb waste and promote excretion. You can also try intermittent fasting to give the stomach and intestines time to rest and self-repair. The fourth thing is to make good use of nature's herbal treasures. Many common spices and herbs in our kitchen are helpful in reducing inflammation and healing the gut. For example, mint can relax the stomach and intestines and relieve bloating. Chamomile has anti-inflammatory and calming effects. Ginger can promote digestion and anti-inflammation. Curcumin in turmeric is a powerful anti-inflammatory agent, and garlic contains allicin, which is a natural antibacterial agent that can inhibit harmful bacteria in the gut. We can add them to daily cooking or use them to make tea. Having said so much, you may have noticed a key point. Our body is an organic whole. Diet gut microbiome, inflammatory response, emotions, immunity, and metabolism are all interconnected, affecting the whole body. Inflammatory foods are like hidden assassins lurking on our dining table. They weaken the intestinal defense line and ignite the flames of chronic inflammation in our body, while natural remedies provide a gentle but effective way out. Let's quickly summarize the core of this video's discussion. The inflammatory foods we eat into our body trigger chronic inflammation by destroying the gut microbiome, thus affecting the health of the whole body. We can rebuild gut health and extinguish the flames in the body by adjusting our diet and lifestyle and using natural remedies to reap health and vitality. Finally, I hope today's sharing can bring you some inspiration. Your every choice is voting for your health. When you shop in the supermarket next time, perhaps you can think more about the good residents in your gut that need support and choose some green vegetables and fresh fruits. Don't underestimate these small daily changes. If you persevere for a long time, the flames that were burning fiercely in the body will gradually extinguish. What will replace it will be an internal environment full of vitality. By then, you will not only be able to stay away from the shadow of inflammatory foods, but also reap a healthier and more energetic version of yourself. That's all for today's sharing. If you think this episode is helpful to you, please don't skip your likes and support, and please share it with the elders you care about and love. If you want to continue to receive more practical, scientifically backed health advice like this that can truly change your life, be sure to subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.